This is KVUE News at 5.
Heard that I was fired because of the Russia investigation.
Former FBI Director James Comey on Capitol Hill addressing his firing and why he leaked memos of conversations with the president to the press.
And it's a story parents need to hear. Dry drownings. What you need to keep in mind if your kids are around the water this summer.
Hi everybody, I'm Mike Rush.
I'm Terry Gruca. All eyes on former FBI Director James Comey today. Comey's testimony on Capitol Hill lasting less than 3 hours this morning.
It covered many topics: the Russia election interference investigation, Comey's firing, and the leaking of his memos to the press, and Comey admitting that he leaked those memos himself. ABC's Janae Norman has the play-by-play.
There were quite a few stunning moments during James Comey's nearly 3-hour testimony, during which he accused the Trump administration of lying and even suggested President Trump wanted special treatment in exchange for loyalty.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth?
Former FBI Director James Comey was cool, calm, and collected as he shared his side on Capitol Hill. Weighing in on his controversial firing, the administration blamed on FBI rank-and-file losing confidence.
Those were lies, plain and simple. I take the president at his word that I was fired because of the Russia investigation.
Comey testified the president repeatedly asked for his loyalty. One conversation that continued to come up when Comey says Trump asked him to let go of the FBI's criminal investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Trump allegedly saying, "I hope you can see your way to letting Flynn go," a claim the president has flat out denied.
The president never, in form or substance, directed or suggested that Mr. Comey stop investigating anyone, including the president never suggested that Mr. Comey, quote, let Flynn go, close quote.
Comey admitting he'd never memorialized conversations with presidents in the past, but did so with Trump to protect himself and the FBI.
I was honestly concerned that he might lie about the nature of our meeting, and so I thought it really important to document.
And a stunning revelation. Comey admitting this tweet from Trump that James Comey better hope that there are no tapes of our conversations before he starts leaking to the press prompted him to orchestrate the release of his memo of the Flynn conversation through a friend.
And so I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter. I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel.
The president speaking today, not directly referencing Comey, but saying he will not back down from doing what is right.
We know that the truth will prevail.
Janae Norman, ABC News.
Today, President Trump's lawyer said the president feels completely vindicated by Comey's admission that he did tell Trump that he was not under investigation. The White House weighing in, saying, quote, "The president is not a liar." As for the president, he was silent on Twitter today. Mr. Trump usually active on his account, but he did not send out anything. Our coverage of Comey's testimony continues tonight after World News. Coming up at 6, we sit down with Chief Security Officer at Stratfor, Fred Burton, to break down what the Comey hearing means moving forward.
Breaking right now, a Houston grand jury indicted an off-duty sheriff's deputy and her husband on murder charges in the choking death of John Hernandez during a May confrontation outside of a Houston area Denny's. This video is at the center of the controversy. It starts when 24-year-old Hernandez headed outside to urinate. Moments later, the husband of an off-duty deputy is seen restraining him. The Harris County District Attorney said yesterday that her office is committed to a fair, evidence-based process. Brits headed to the polls today in an election that took a dramatic turn following this month's terror attack. Prime Minister Theresa May called the vote weeks ago to increase her party's influence. But now it's about terrorism. May saying if her party wins, she'll crack down on extremists. The result could also impact relations with the U.S. May offered President Trump a state visit, while her opponent, Jeremy Corbyn, says he will stand up to the U.S. leader.
This week, we told you about a 4-year-old Houston boy who died from dry drowning just days after swimming at the lake. It is a tragedy doctors say can be prevented if the proper steps are taken. KVUE's Nicole Rosales joins us from the newsroom. Nicole, I know you spoke to Dell Children's emergency director about the signs to look for. A lot of parents may not know these.
You're absolutely right, and that's why we wanted to shine a light on this. There are about 10 deaths every day related to drowning in the U.S., and 1 out of 5 is a child. Dry drowning may not be as common, but it's just as important to understand because the symptoms typically show up long after your child steps out of the water. For some, hitting the water during summer break is a must-do, and whether it's the local pool or lake, child safety is number one.
That's in the forefront of my mind. And so both of my kids started to learn to swim at about 6 months.
Dr. Eric Hithenbotham is the emergency department director at Dale Children's Medical Center. The father of 2 says parents not only have to watch their children while in the water, but once they get out.
Kids will have a drowning event, so they're underwater, submerged, taking a breath of air. And then what happens is instead of big inflated lungs, these little air pockets start to sort of collapse down.
It was this week when a 4-year-old boy died from dry drowning. What's deceiving is when the child steps out, they're fine. That's because it takes 6 hours or more to develop any serious symptoms.
We can never tell who really had the event and who didn't, and that's why we watch all of those kids for that amount of time.
The most common signs include coughing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, and sudden changes in behavior. If they go untreated, it can lead to death.
So it's just so preventable, and that's what's heartbreaking about it.
Dr. Higginbotham says eliminate distractions like talking on the phone or drinking. Parents need to keep a close eye on their child because the signs may not always be obvious.
So you don't want that period of time that could be 2 or 3 minutes where you're not paying attention and that child's underwater.
Those few minutes that count the most. Now, one other important thing the doctor mentioned, the younger they are, the more they need to be in arm's reach. And it seems simple, but it could be your best prevention. Again, dry drowning deaths are rare, only 1% to 2% of all drowning cases. In the newsroom, Nicole Rosales, KVUE News.
Partly sunny today, highs made it into the low 90s over much of the area. Scanning the skies with Max Storm Doppler radar, and much of the little pop-up shower activity has been either well south of us or just west of us. We'll keep in just a 10% chance for a pop-up shower in the hill country or south of Austin this evening. 91 degrees right now, following a high at 93. About a 20% chance of rain for tomorrow. The humidity and the wind on the increase for the weekend, and that's going to lead to heat index values to near 100 starting early next week. Your full forecast is coming up.
Okay, see you then. Thanks, Albert. So they say everything is bigger in Texas, and that includes the hearts of many Texans across this state. You may have seen this post on our page. A Houston father struggling to pay for insulin for his 3 sons.
Craig Bunkler wasn't looking for handouts, but posted on Facebook encouraging people to stop by his pizza shop. And today, Texans turned out to help the family. For the first time in a long time, there was a line outside of the door.
I think it's worth the wait. That way you show care and support for them. That's humanity at its best. This is what it's about, helping one another.
If it's too busy today, come back next week. Come back the week after, because I can't ask everybody to come donate every month to help pay my bills. But if you'll come back and order food once in a while, we'll be here. You know, support local businesses.
Wow, isn't that great? Bonkler is a single dad, has 3 sons that all have type 1 diabetes.
Wow.
That's amazing.
It is.